You might have seen that Sony's Smartwatch strap is now available in the UK. Well, it says here it's now available. It's not strictly true. It's now available to pre-order. It's coming out on the 4th of March. I'm recording this in the middle of February. That still hasn't stopped some websites from publishing hands-on reviews of things that they have yet to get in for review. But I'll tell you someone that has got one of these already. Me, this guy with the thumbs that you can't see. I ordered one back on the 15th of January, imported it from Japan. It's just a bit of a coincidence. It's now coming out in the UK. So I can tell you all about what it's like to use a Sony Wena smartwatch strap. Now, first off, I'll explain the concept. You start off by choosing your wrist strap. Do you want a Wrist Pro, which is stainless steel, available in black or silver, or the Wrist Active, which is available with a plastic rubberized polymer? Then you go on to choose which watch face or head you want to attach to that strap. When it launches in the UK, you're going to have a choice between mechanical, solar, chronograph or three hands in a variety of different styles and colours. Meanwhile, in Japan, where the Wena product has been on sale for a couple of years or so now, there's a lot more choice. Over there, they also keep the Wena website separate to the Sony one. They don't mention Sony anywhere on here, although the Wena is a Sony offshoot. But over there, they've got quite a bit more choice as far as the watch faces go, because Sony, or Wena, have teamed up with companies like Seiko to produce limited edition or special edition Wena watches. However, if you prefer, you can do what I've done and just buy the smart watch strap and attach it up to one of your existing watches. But what does this smart watch strap do? Well, there are three main purposes. The first one is for contactless payments. The second one, it displays the notifications from your phone on a small OLED screen which resides underneath your wrist and accompanies these with a vibration. And third, it's responsible for activity logging. And it's that last function which really separates out the two different designs. The active model is, as its name suggests, designed more for people who take part in exercise. So the sensors that are on here include a GPS sensor and a heart rate sensor. In addition to that, the watch face can be easily removed from this one, and you can just wear the wristband or strap on its own overnight and use it as a sleep monitoring device. By comparison, the Pro model, despite sounding like it's further up the range, it's missing some of those features from the Active. It doesn't have a heart rate monitor, it doesn't have the GPS, the acceleration sensor, it's there to turn the device on when you twist your wrist if you activate that function, but also it will measure steps. So you can still use this as a pedometer. However, overnight, if you wanted to use it as a sleep monitor, you can't do that with this one, because if you take the head or face off this one, you're left with an incomplete strap. But despite having less features, the Pro is the more expensive of the two because of its stainless steel strap. I think most people would be better off with the Active model with its additional features for £50 less. But when I was ordering mine from Japan, it was a little bit difficult to determine the differences between the two, so I just ordered the Pro, assuming it would do everything. Oh, and one thing I should mention, because if I don't, people will ask, both the straps are water resistant. I wouldn't call it waterproof, so don't go diving wearing one of these, but it just means you don't have to take your watch off next time you wash the car. By importing mine from Japan, it turns out I've saved about £40 on the price that they're going to be in the UK. That's even including paying the VAT and the postage, but I would not recommend doing what I've done just to save a bit of money, because the model that I've bought from Japan will not work with any contactless payment systems over here. It's designed for the ones they've got over there. But apparently when it comes out in the UK, it's going to be able to work with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Fitbit Pay and Garmin Pay. It's doing this via a service called Boon. Now, I hadn't heard of this before, so I did a little bit of reading up, and apparently to use this service will cost you £1.49 a month. Now, this is of absolutely no concern whatsoever to me, because I was never planning on using this device for contactless payments. But if you are planning on that, then I think that's something that you should be aware of. I, however, only bought this for really one function. I wasn't interested in contactless payments or activity logging. I just wanted it to display the notifications from my phone. So now we know what it's supposed to do, let's see how well it does it. I've noticed on the bottom of the box it says it's been made in Japan. That's something you don't see very often nowadays. Most things like this would be manufactured in China. With everything out of the box, let's have a look at the wrist strap first of all. The most important thing, we'll take this label off here. The OLED screen on the bottom is very subtle, as you can see, just in the clasp mechanism. It doesn't make it any bigger than a normal clasp either. The only thing that's a little bit unusual about the strap on the inside, you notice the sections with the arrows are the ones that can be removed if you want to adjust the length of the strap. There are 2 on one side and 5 on the other. Well, these ones in the middle can't be removed. They've got screws through them. And looking at an exploded diagram of this strap, it appears that that's where the batteries are located. Of course, this doesn't affect the flexibility of the strap in any way, and if you're wondering about the battery life, if you didn't spot it in the specs earlier on, it's there up at the top. Apparently it's supposed to last for approximately 1 week between charges, and a charge takes just 1.5 hours. Of course, without the app, this would be useless, so I had to check the app was available in the UK iOS App Store before I bought it. It was, so of course I went ahead and ordered. But I've got to say then that this is a review from the perspective of someone using this on an iOS device. I haven't tried it with an Android phone, but I've noticed in the publicity photos they're using iPhones, so I'd imagine that it's supposed to work equally well on both. Once you run the app for the first time, you have to select what kind of wrist strap you bought, and then it tells you how to charge it. In the case of the Pro, it uses this clip, which is attached to a USB micro lead, which is supplied inside the box. You can see inside here there are a couple of little contacts, and that just clips around the wrist strap like this. Once it's in place and plugged in, you can see the charge level displayed on the screen there. So whilst it was charging, I had a look at the instruction booklets that were supplied with it. Of course, these are all in Japanese. However, now you can download English language versions from the Sony website. There are a couple of help guides, though, that still have inactive links, but no doubt when the product's officially launched, those will also appear. But we've now got sufficient charge in there to carry on with the rest of the setup procedure, so it's just your standard Bluetooth pairing. Hold down the button on the side to activate pairing. Select the device on your phone, type in the code that's shown on the screen, and then carry on with the rest of the setup. You can put your weight and height in here if you're interested in measuring calorie burn. Also choose which wrist you're wearing it on, whether you want it to show 2 lines on the display or 1. I can also choose which applications I'm interested in receiving notifications from, and you can do things like choosing whether you want those notifications to deactivate between certain times for the watch to go to sleep overnight. And as always, there's a firmware update. There are quite a few more settings that would only be of interest to someone that actually bought one of these, and if they bought one, they'd have them to play around with, so I don't need to go into them here. Just one thing though, if you do get one, look at the bottom here, click on that after you've changed all your settings. It has to write them to the watch. It took me a while to figure that out, and I was wondering why I wasn't getting any notifications through. I'll just send a test notification through. If you look to the right hand side of the watch display, you'll see a flashing yellow dot. You can change the colour of those depending upon which application is sending the notification through, and you can see the scrolling text to the left of there. In addition to the flashing dot, you've got vibrations. You can set those between strong, medium or low. So with the setup procedure complete, it's just a matter of finding a donor watch to attach the strap to. I plan on using it on this Seiko 5. Now inside the box for the Wena, there are some very small accessories designed to adjust the size of the wrist strap, and it mentions in the manual that you should not attempt to adjust the size on your own. Take it to a professional watch repair shop. And indeed, if you're not familiar with adjusting watch wristbands, I would recommend following that advice, because this is a pretty fiddly procedure. Let me show you how difficult it can get. Now, first off, starting with the Seiko 5, it's a matter of taking the wristband off that one. So I gave that a good clean and thought I'm all ready for attaching it to the Wena wrist strap. You can see how it attaches here as well. We've got these spring-loaded pegs that pop out from the side, just a matter of putting one into the other, but then I found that it's the wrong width. The Seiko 5 has a 20mm gap between the lugs there, but the strap is actually 22. Now, I was under the impression that out of the box somehow this would work with either 18, 20 or 22. That seems to be what's indicated in the Amazon advert as well. But what happens is you buy it, it's got 22 on there, at least the one I've got from Japan has, and if you want to adapt it for a different size, you have to buy the appropriate accessory. Well, of course, I didn't have any of those, but instead what I do have, fortunately, is another watch which I can use on this one, which does have a 22mm gap between the lugs. So that's what I'm going to use, but yeah, a little bit inconvenient. So after a bit of fiddling around, I finally got the Wena strap onto the new watch and it looks okay. It's just a bit big, so I need to take out a couple of these links. Now, talking of taking links out, on the Apple Watch, this was something that they got very right with their stainless steel strap. Just a matter of using a thumbnail to push in one of those sections there and it just comes apart very easily. And then you can just remove or add these links in as you require and just pop it back together. It's a whole different story on the Wena. Of course, I'm not suggesting that they could have copied the Apple system. I'm sure that's very heavily patented. However, there are plenty of alternatives to the system that they've chosen that are much simpler and easier to adjust. I'm just not sure why they've gone down this route. Of course, again, a reminder, this is something that's supposed to be done by a professional, not someone like myself at home. But I've adjusted plenty of watch straps over the years, and I've got to say this is the most complicated way of doing it that I've ever encountered. I think if nothing else, this will hopefully put a few people off attempting to do this themselves if they haven't adjusted a watch before, because you can see the size of this component here, this C-ring as it's called, which is designed to fit in one side and then you push the rod through from the other and it clamps it in place. But you have to have eyes like a hawk not to lose those, and you have to have the patience of a saint to put this thing back together again. Trust me, this was like an hour or so of messing around and an awful lot of swearing. But finally, I got the wrist strap to the size that I wanted. That was just taking out one link. So let's see how it looks on the wrist. And it's just my luck to find out that I'm between sizes. I prefer my watch just a little bit tighter than this. Not much though. I can't take out a full link here. But on a traditional metal watch band, they can accommodate small adjustments like this by moving the pegs along in the clasp. You can't do that on the Wena. Instead, they provide you with a half-width link. So I'll need to replace one of these full-width ones with this half-width one. So I return to my favourite pastime of adjusting this watch strap, doing a little bit more neurosurgery with those tiny components, but eventually I got it all back together again and it fits just right now. Now, I've had to take this video down for a while. It had been up live for a few hours, and then I discovered that there was something that I was mentioning in the video that was very significant, that was inaccurate. It was to do with the application notifications. As far as I could figure out from the app, you could only choose from the list of applications that it provided you with. So if I wanted, for example, to have notification for eBay, there was nothing I could do with that one. Arlo, my home security system, I couldn't have that one either. So it made the device pretty useless to me. But you can add your own custom notifications in. What you have to do is click Add at the top right there, type in the name exactly as it's written on the application on your phone, and then from there you can choose the colour of the notification, etc. that comes through. And that will then activate the notifications to the Wena wristband from that particular application. Now, for this to work, the name has to be exactly the same as the application. For example, there were options for message, but not messages. So once you've added in messages, you can then get the notifications through from those as well. So that's why I took down the video and re-uploaded it, because earlier on I just couldn't figure out how to get those notifications to work. I just wish they hadn't included a list of ones you could pick from. That's what made it confusing. We've still got issues though. When you go outdoors with one of these, whether the notifications you want are coming through or not, you won't be able to read them in sunlight. And even if you're just in sort of normal outdoor ambient light, a bit in the shade, you can just about make out the red dot on the right flashing there, but you can't see the text until you really cup your hand around the display, and then you can only just make it out. Now, of course, this isn't going to be an issue if someone's just using this indoors. The display is nice and easy to read indoors, nice and clear. But I can't imagine there's many people who would get one of these and never want to read a notification while they're outside. But while I was outside, I decided to go for a walk just to check that the pedometer was measuring the steps as it should do. On the other hand, I had an Apple Watch Gen 1, so I wanted to compare the two. So the Wena said I'd done 10,653 steps. The Apple Watch, on the other hand, literally said I'd done 11,707. I've really got no idea which one was the closest to being accurate. I'll just show you a couple of extra features here. If you flip it over, it will automatically display the last message that came through. You can switch this feature off. If you're not interested in it, then you just have to tap the button to activate the same feature. Notice for this mail, it's saying this message has no content. That's because it's an HTML email, and of course it can't display any information from there. Now, if you double tap that button, it takes you into the battery life and the step counter. Now, if you want to turn off the Bluetooth, you can see the symbol on the right there. Just hold down the button for a couple of seconds, it will turn the Bluetooth off. I suppose that's like a flight mode. In addition, if you wanted to turn it off entirely, you could just hold down the button for a couple more seconds. So to sum this up, it's expensive, but of course it's down to the individual to decide whether or not it's value for money for them. For me, I only wanted it for the notifications, and the fact that I can't read those when I'm outside is a major limitation. I do quite like the concept of this, I just don't think the implementation is there just yet. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.